So when you look it up on the Georgia tourism and Georgia education websites, it will tell you that Georgia was founded by James Oglethorpe, and that he was the primary founder of Georgia, and that when Georgia was founded, they did not have slaves. There were no enslaved people in Georgia. And the reason was, according to this website, which is the first response on Google, that it was a purely economic decision and kind of a matter of logistics. The Spanish were nearby. There was a war with the Spanish. If the Spanish got a hold of enslaved people and freed them, then they would join the Spanish side. That this was like economics and logistics, which is interesting because James Oglethorpe is such an interesting character. Right before he founds Georgia, he is actually on the kind of board of directors for the Royal African Company, which is like a big slave trading operation. And he ends up with this letter from this guy named Diallo, who's like a enslaved person in North America trying to write a letter to his father. He writes a letter in Arabic, and it ends up in London, and Oglethorpe ends up getting it translated. And Oglethorpe has kind of this revelation, right? This is like that these are people. He leaves the slave trading company. He purchases the young man who was in North America and brings him back over to London. And while he's forming Georgia, he is very clear that slavery is not part of this thing. He says repeatedly, slavery is against the gospel, it is against the laws of England, that it is bad for enslaved people, that it is a tragedy for the people from Africa being brought over, and that it is bad for white people to be in this position of relying on enslaved people for labor. It makes them lazy. And he's in Georgia, and like this is the founding of Georgia. This is the founding father of Georgia, is this guy. And ultimately, the economic pressures essentially just become too high. The Oglethorpe leaves, he goes back to England where he dies, and when he dies there, James Oglethorpe has a monument erected in his name that literally says, who was a friend to the oppressed Negro. Like, it's on his plaque. So I'm not quite sure why the Georgia tourism and Georgia education websites are so very clear at first results when you look up Georgia being a place that didn't allow slavery for the first 20 years. They're so clear that this is not a matter of principle. Because Oglethorpe sounds like a guy who had like a principle-based revelation.